All right. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and listening to us to the real Short Box and watching us here live on YouTube Live. We appreciate it very much. I'm Donald. To my right is our special guest star, Christopher Dietana. Right below us is Mr. Kevin. And in the corner over here is Mr. Darren. So thank you, everybody, for being on, of course, with us today and for watching us here at the Real Short Box Live. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about unmade superhero films. So superhero films that they were starting to move along into production, and then somebody went, oh, maybe this is a bad idea, and it never got made. And we're going to talk about a lot of that. Superman Returns, or whatever it was, the unmade Kevin Smith one, that's going to be a big one we're going to talk about today, too. So while I'm in the background doing a few things, these gents are maybe going to discuss some of their favorite ones. Not in detail, just kind of ones that they thought really struck a chord with them, so to speak.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, not all of these movies were bad ideas. Some of them were actually pretty good ideas that didn't come to fruition, rather for political reasons, budgetary reasons, the typical Hollywood drama that goes on. So, but most of them, I would say, probably were not particularly good ideas.
Right.
The one that kind of disappointed me a little bit, and it's because I know the producer personally, I really felt like Jerry Tuvington got screwed over. I really thought a spinoff should have been in development for Jerry Tuvington from Blue Beetle Ted Cord Returns. And, I just don't understand. Maybe it was lazy writing. Maybe it was just a lack of, I don't know, budget. I just don't know what it is. I just thought it was a very unfair thing. This is an original character that had been brought to life by the writers, and then it's like, we'll just let him be. We gave him enough screen time in 4 seasons.
You know what? I have breaking news on that. There's a spinoff of that is currently in development.
Huh?
Whoa!
Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive, Darren.
It's being shot this summer.
All right, I asked for $10,000. Make it happen, Donald.
Oh boy! By the way, we don't have a budget, but I don't know if the audience knows. I created a web series called The Blue Beetle Ted Cord Returns, and did 4 seasons of it. 4 seasons, and now we're doing an episodic spinoff here for Dr. Hypnovert, aka Mr. Tuvington.
Okay, so something I think it's really interesting when you look at all these movies we're probably going to go to on this list. Marvel had a hesitancy for many years to produce films, and a lot of the reason that they did, other than the fact that maybe they thought they may not have played well, was maybe an underwhelming, I guess is the best way to put it, technology with CGI. They just really felt like there were a lot of things that were not able to be done.
Yeah.
Due to the lack of computer effects, which is why, especially, you see it with Blade a little, but especially the first X-Men movie, they really just blew the lid off, showing that these could be done. And you'll see a lot of Marvel films that we have pop up here and films that you'll see a lot of the reason they didn't make it did have a lot to do with the fact that the CGI would be very challenging, which means it would cost a boatload of money, and people just really weren't 100% confident that these characters were really going to play that well on the big screen.
Right. Well, gents, I've posted us. We are live on the social media platform, so please, Kevin, if you can post in the Super Palookas as well as your page. Darren, the drill.
Yeah.
Chris as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, Maria popped in. Howdy, Maria.
Hello, Maria.
Thanks for joining us tonight. You are the first one to join because I just posted the link. It's my fault. I'm behind. I'm sorry.
Let's see here. Okay. And share now. All right. We are shared and ready to go here. Kevin, I know that you have been excited to do this topic for quite some time. What is it that draws you to the idea of superhero films that never came to be?
Well, it kind of goes back to when I was a kid and reading about these movies in Wizard magazine that I used to read back in the day. And I remember they talked about the X-Men movie. First time I ever heard about them actually trying to put it together. And of course, when I read it, I think I talked to Donald and Jared about this one time. There's some stupid ideas that were in there. They had Magneto not being called Magneto. Instead, he was called Prince Metalworks.
Whoa!
Yes.
Hey, Austin.
Prince Metalworks. And I'm like, okay. They're smoking some good stuff in these boardrooms.
Hello, fair sirs. I am Prince Metalworks from the Ren Fair.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And then Wolverine, I think, wasn't going to have like adamantium claws. There was some stupid thing they had going on there. It was just some ridiculous stuff. I'm trying to find that magazine article. I would have got more further detail into it. I couldn't find the article. But maybe in a future podcast, whenever I go back east to go through my stuff, I'll bring it back and just bring it up for a couple of minutes. But it was so stupid. I'm glad it never came to fruition.
I'm Fork and Knife Wolverine, bud. I'm going to eat my dinner. That's What? I don't understand. What is happening?
And plus, back in our day at the ArcLight, we would always have good discussions about some of these superhero movies that ever came to fruition. And I remember when Spider-Man 4, after Spider-Man 3, we were talking about Spider-Man 4, it looked like there were going to be a really good, cool plot to that. But of course, that never came to fruition. And of course, Iron Man, we used to talk about that. I think Donald and I used to discuss who would be a good Iron Man. I think Robert Downey Jr. was on our list, interestingly enough. And then it became a real thing.
Yeah, we might as well just say that we're the ones that casted him.
We casted RDJ.
Yeah, so you guys are welcome.
Well, yeah, I know, and it's kind of interesting when you mention it, Kevin. I mean, I know maybe the Spider-Man 4 didn't come to fruition that you want, but instead you got the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, which I know is just a massive favorite of yours and Donald's.
Well, to be honest with you, Donald convinced me. He said, Kevin, do not watch those two movies. I'm actually taking his advice off for once on this. I've yet to watch those two movies. He told me they're that bad and they're not worth watching. I said, okay.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, they may be worth watching now that they're going to bring it back into.
That's true.
Universe.
That's true. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, so I guess they'll be brought back into the fold.
Don't do it, Kevin.
Look, Spider-Man's a heavyweight character, and you just can't throw a Spider-Man movie together. But that's exactly what they did, and it got the exact reception you expected.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Surprisingly, it was a very poorly made film for a director named Mark Webb. You would. Perfect, right? Like, this guy was born to do Spider-Man. But no. Didn't happen. Son of a bitch.
Can we end Donald's call?
No, I'm the one hosting, buddy, so I'll be here all night.
Now, this is something maybe I could throw to the panel here, because I just can't think of one off the top of my head. Is there a third or a fourth-rate character in the comic book universe that has had a number of people try to bring them into the fold, and it has just failed repeatedly, and nobody stopped to ask maybe, hey, it's because it's a third or fourth-rate character?
Well, technically, actually, I'm about to say a successful one, but obviously Blade was considered a fourth-rate character, and that worked out.
Very much true. Oh, by the way, my mom popped in. Everybody say hi to my mom.
Hi, Mrs. McKinney.
Hi, Mom.
Hello.
Hi, Dad. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Blade was really kind of a D-lister for a long time. And the movie actually made him popular. He would pop up here and there, like Man-Thing, would pop up occasionally, and then they'd be like, and Blade! And you'd be like, oh, cool, that guy. Yeah. But Wesley Snipes in those films made Blade huge. And now that they brought him back in, I was looking up the value of these comics of Tomb of Dracula number 10, which is his first appearance. A buddy of mine's like, I would like to get a book that's not graded from CGC or CBCS or whatever, just his first appearance, and I'm looking to spend around $700. And he's like, it just needs to be presentable in okay condition. I couldn't find one. Could not find one. $700 for a poor grade of Tomb of Dracula number 10, first appearance of Blade. Can't believe it. I was like, blown away. Like, wow, this book really has taken off. So the character of Blade is huge again, which is nice.
And well deserved.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's finally getting his due. For sure.
I read a press release earlier today from
Enrique.
Warner Media, who of course was talking about doing a new Superman movie, but they did mention that they were going to have a Blue Beetle project that's being worked on, and it looks like they are selecting Jaime Reyes as the Blue Beetle. And I think that's a very bizarre choice, being that the Blue Beetle is a classic DC character, and most people would only recognize Ted Kord.
And sons of bitches.
Or maybe Dan Garrett.
Them sons of bitches. They're making the wrong decision.
I know the exact reason they're doing it. It's because Jaime Reyes is going to sell more toys because he has that weird Power Ranger-like suit.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably also because he was in Young Justice. So the kids that watch that cartoon are now fully functioning adults. And, they'll buy tickets to see him. Whereas Ted Kord, you've got 40 to 70-year-old men going around going, "Hey, I want Ted Kord," which is me, by the way. I'm right in that group complaining. "I want Ted Kord. You're in Ted Kord, please." Yeah. But if you do need your Ted Kord fix, there's always the web series, The Blue Beetle Ted Kord Returns, on YouTube, Rumble Spoon Productions. Now, go watch it after this.
Give some love.
Yeah. Everybody that's on this panel right now has been in it. Isn't that crazy?
Really? Maria was in it?
Episode.
I said in this panel. Kevin, are you drunk?
Oh, I said like in the section.
Ricky Barnett says, "Hey guys." So hey Ricky, thanks for joining us.
What's up?
Very nice of you to join us. Anybody know Ricky?
I'm not sure.
Really?
We do now.
Ricky, did you find it Facebook or YouTube? Just strolling through YouTube Live and found us on there? Let us know.
Yeah, or maybe he's part of the Palookas and Super Palookas, and we're not aware of it.
It's quite possible. Yeah, we have a Facebook group for comic books and stuff. And we also, by the way, have a fan page, Friends of the Real Short Box. It's on Facebook. If you ever want to join that, you can always ask to join the fans page for that. It is an exclusive club, and you do have to apply to be accepted.
And just so you know, too, Ricky, we are waiting for our chat room to fill up a little bit here, so we're just shooting the breeze here for about a minute or two.
Ricky says that Evan, so he knows Evan. Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Evan is a good guy. We're fans of Evan. In fact, we just recorded a recent podcast that we're going to be putting up probably in the next 2 weeks or so. Where we talk about a subject that Evan is very passionate about, and that's the shaken comic syndrome. And for those that don't know what shaken comic syndrome is, it's when you get a book that's been slabbed, like CGC graded, in like a plastic case, and it looks like the cover has come loose from the book itself because they didn't put the book in the slab properly, and it's loose, so it's been shaking. So that's what we mean by that, and that's what he was very passionate about. So we're doing a whole section on that coming up in one of our audio podcasts that we do pretty much every week. It comes out used to be on Wednesdays, but we started trying Fridays to see how Fridays work instead of Wednesdays. But we might go back. Yeah, Ricky, yes, he does like to talk about that a lot. Recently anyway. So yeah, as far as these films are concerned and stuff, there's been some whoppers, some real doozies, and we might as well get started on some of these because we got a lot to talk about. Kevin, since you're the master of knowledge on this, you've done a lot of research and we've talked a lot about it. Why don't you go ahead and go with one that's near and dear to your heart, and we'll talk about that. Since we were just talking about Blade,
well, how about this? Let's start with Tim Burton's Batman 3.
Okay. Do I have an image for that, Kevin?
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
It should be, actually, it was kind of technically the advertisement photo.
Ooh, let me look it up. Let's see, Tim Burton's Batman 3. You can go ahead. I'll just look for the picture.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is this is something that has a lot of lore in Hollywood, I'm sure, as you know, Darren. I remember as a kid, I was a fan of both, the first Batman movie from '89 and Batman Returns in '92. And I was pretty excited to see where direction they were going to go. And I was glad when I heard they were going to use the Riddler, because that's one of my favorite Batman villains. And interestingly enough, Billy D. Williams, it turns out, was supposed to have been in Batman Returns instead of the Max Schreck character. But for some reason, I don't know if he wasn't available or what the reason was, he wasn't there. So the scene where Catwoman shocks him, that was supposed to have been Harvey Dent. And that would have transitioned in to the third Batman movie of him becoming Two-Face.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That would have been kind of interesting, right? And that would have actually made sense.
That totally would have made sense. Yeah.
Instead of what we got in Batman Forever, where some criminal sitting on the bench just tosses some liquid on Harvey Dent, and all of a sudden, and that's how, he gets that, the half pink face.
Who needs origin stories?
So Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face was probably the worst bit of acting I've seen in.
And he didn't want to do it either. He only did it because his kids asked him to.
Yeah, it's awful. It's really bad. Like, for some reason, I don't know why everybody wants to be another character when they're a character. Like, Two-Face, Tommy Lee Jones, I think he took a look at what Jim Carrey was doing as the Riddler, and he was like, I would like to do that. And they were like, no, Tommy, you're Two-Face, Tommy. You do Two-Face. And he's like, no, I want to do that. And they're like, no, you're Two-Face. And then he's like, okay, I'm Two-Face. And then he's like, but I'm going to do that. Because they're basically trying to compete with each other doing the same character. It's kind of crazy.
And the movie initially was going to be called Batman Continues, which is kind of strange. Just very, very blah title, Batman Continues.
Pete says Jones hated Carrey, which makes complete sense. That probably because Jim Carrey was in top form. You know what I mean? This is like high Jim Carrey. This is ego Jim Carrey. Like, I'm the best at comedy. I'm amazing. Everything I do is hilarious. And also maybe a little bit of slight jealousy from Tommy Lee Jones because he probably got more attention. Because at that time he was a bigger name. He really was. Jim Carrey was huge for them to land.
Yeah,
and
he was at his peak.
Tommy probably didn't like that. So I can completely understand that, Pete. So good mark on that.
Also, too, just, from the Hollywood rumor mill, Tommy Lee Jones generally is not a very well-liked actor by his coworkers.
Really?
Yeah, Tommy has been known to be really finicky and very particular about things. And if he's not willing to do something, end of story. He won't do it. There was a movie that he was in called The Hunted with Benicio del Toro, and Tommy was not actively participating in a lot of the stunt rehearsals, which caused a lot of difficulty for the shooting. And they had to shoot things multiple times, and you can't exhaust an actor like that. So I mean, it took a lot longer to shoot than need be, and it flopped anyway. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. Part of it is Jim has that ego, and he's a prankster. He can get under your skin, but also too, Tommy is kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I would be extremely interested in seeing how Billy D. Williams would have portrayed Two-Face, to be honest.
Yeah, it would have been interesting.
It certainly would have.
And just like another person who we missed out on was Marlon Wayans. He was going to play Robin. But with all the things that happened between transitioning from Burton to Schumacher wanted Chris O'Donnell. But the good news for Mr. Wayans, got a nice pay-or-play deal. Since they didn't use him, they had to pay him, and they did.
Let me ask you, how do you think the public would have received him playing Two-Face, though, Billy D. Williams? Because notoriously, the public, particularly comic book fans, like to keep their characters the same. And by the same, I mean Two-Face was a white man, and now being played by a black man. And because he played Harvey Dent first, I think maybe they were trying to ease him into the public eye a little more, which was smart. because they could say, well, he's been there and he was Harvey Dent, so now he's Two-Face. And because I think the general public wouldn't know who Harvey Dent is or was going to be. They would just know Two-Face as a character. But comic book fans knew, and would know, and there didn't seem to be, at least
a problem
that I knew of, a big issue back then about this, which is surprising, because if you take a look at some of the casting that's happened later, there's been an uproar here or there. I think one of the few that I didn't hear too much about was when they did Kingpin. And they did, what's his name? Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah. And he played he played Kingpin magnificently, and everybody seemed to really love him as that character. But also, the Kingpin wasn't a huge character then either, so, if maybe if it would have been Michael Clark Duncan playing Spider-Man, people might have drawn more issue with it. I don't know.
Or Samuel Jackson playing Nick Fury, although I know that's based off the Ultimates. People didn't have a problem with that. But then again...
Yeah, that's true. That went over very well.
Nick Fury was.
Yeah, I mean, my theory normally doesn't change on these things. Once you're on the screen and you're into the role, the public's going to judge you however they're going to judge you. In the case of Michael Clark Duncan, aside from skin color and pigment, he looked exactly like the Kingpin. Bald, large, bulky, looked...
He had a presence to him.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really look that much different. And then in the case of Billy D. Williams, like I said, when you get up on the screen, people will judge for themselves whether they like you or not. I don't really think they kind of hang up on that quite as much.
Yeah.
Now, another character that we would have seen, as I was talking about the Riddler earlier, would have been played by the late, great Robin Williams. That's something, unfortunately, we missed out on, because I really wanted to see that. And Robin Williams was going to be given, the ability from Tim Burton to play the character, differently, play it his way. He was going to shave his head into a question mark. And it was going to be, a dark character. Go ahead.
Do you remember? I'm sorry. Please continue. I'm going to go to a different.
Oh, yes. And so before, Robin Williams was supposed to have been the Joker in the first Batman movie, but apparently a secret deal was done that got Jack Nicholson the deal instead. So this time around, they're trying to make it up to him to give him another villain role. But of course, as we know, when the controversy between Tim Burton and the Warner Brothers Studios went down, he ended up losing it again to Jim Carrey. And he was pretty upset about it for quite a few years. It's like, you're going to give me a chance. If it's serious, give me a real offer and I'll do it. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. But it would have been very interesting to see how his take of the character.
Yeah, and I remember in Dark Knight Rises, they were having conversations about bringing in the Riddler, and Eddie Murphy's name was actually thrown around, which I thought was really
I remember that, yeah. I heard about that. And I was like, Eddie Murphy's the Riddler? I was like, I don't know. But Eddie Murphy's a great actor, so, again... you get the right actor in the right role, and they can run with it. Kevin, by the way, Pete says that there was a Batman script with ManBat and Scarecrow. Scarecrow gasped Batman, and Batman's greatest fear was for the Joker to return, which would have allowed Nicholson to return?
That was for Batman Triumphant. Interestingly enough, my background has the logo, or at least the somewhat logo from the internet. But yes, that is part of the plot for Batman Triumphant. And I can just mention real quick what that would have been about. They would have brought back all the previous villains from the previous movie to be a part of this hallucination. And it was going to be very expensive to get Jack Nicholson, Jim Carrey, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer all to come back, for this fifth and final movie of that particular iteration of the Batman series. But of course, it never happened because Batman and Robin did not do well. So everything got scrapped.
No.
But it's what could have been. Yeah, it would have been Harley Quinn, I think ManBat, Scarecrow, for Batman Triumphant. So, yep, it would have been... I
would love to see ManBat in a proper Mr. Freeze. Getting Arnold Schwarzenegger in place of Patrick Stewart was absolute insanity to me. Like, Patrick Stewart would have been like, yeah, $10 in a licorice roll, I'll do it, sure, But Schwarzenegger's like, $4 million, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, let's play that. Yeah, Schwarzenegger, yeah, any money you want, whatever. It just didn't make sense to me, but he had a bigger name. And oftentimes with Warner Brothers, I hate to say it, but oftentimes with Warner Brothers, they get on this name thing. Like Will Smith, for example. Will Smith had to be considered for every Warner Brothers property, just because he was associated with them and they'd done a lot of work together, and he was a draw, they thought still. So Will Smith, all the time. They do that. It's just a Warner Brothers thing.
That's true.
Chris, jump in here. Do you have any thoughts on anything we're weighing in on?
Well, I think it's interesting. Thinking back to our podcast on Tim Burton, I find it interesting that he had so many people of color in his plans for Batman 3 when he's clearly racist.
So I hear.
I can neither confirm nor deny this. I've never.
Based on
I'm not even going to speculate on that.
It's a rumor. I've heard it. I don't know if it's true or not.
I don't know a ton about Batman. Like, I know the main villains. ManBat's the one I don't really know anything much about. So it would have been cool, seeing that, learning about that character.
Think of ManBat as the lizard from Spider-Man, basically.
That's what I was thinking. That was probably something like that.
Yeah, very, very similar, eerily similar.
Is he a popular villain?
Somewhat. I have a statue of him in my living room, giant size, and I rub up on it late at night sometimes. But some. No, it's actually about this big. The figure, guys, the figure. It's about this big, maybe this big, like that. Yeah.
And also, Donald, I'm sure you would like to know this, as you're a big Scarecrow fan. Brad Dourif was someone who was listed to play Scarecrow in this third Tim Burton's Batman movie.
Okay, so I met that guy.
You did?
And it was right when he was doing Deadwood. Mm. And right after he had done Grimmer Wormtongue for the Lord of the Rings, right? And he was phenomenal. And we had a really good conversation. The movie Night Watch had just come out with what's his name? He plays Obi-Wan now.
Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, thank you. Ewan McGregor. Night Watch, and he had a big role in that with Ewan. And I was talking to him about it because it kind of went like a blip on the radar to a movie theater and then gone. And I was asking him what happened, and he was telling me just juicy gossip about the film. And I was like, holy shit, this is my first real. I was still living in Ohio at the time, and it was my first experience of a really big actor. And I was like, oh my god, Brad Dourif is telling me this juicy gossip. Oh my god. Why he's signing this photo of him as a Grimmer Wormtongue for me. Oh, I'm going to treasure this moment forever. And I really have. I remembered that still to this day. And that's been a long time ago. That's been 20 years probably. So, give or take a few years. But it's been a long time for me. So, to be able to remember that and just to know how good of an actor he was in that movie, as well as in Lord of the Rings, as well as in Deadwood, I think he would have been phenomenal as the Scarecrow. Yeah. Just phenomenal. Great choice.
Another thing we missed out. We missed out on, as well as another fine performance from Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman. But what happened was, unfortunately, there was politics behind the scenes. Batman Returns was a very dark movie. And of course, as we know, art and commerce have a tendency to have conflict. So McDonald's was upset with the dark nature of Batman Returns. I guess enough toys wasn't selling. And so they convinced Warner Brothers, okay, we got to make a change here. And of course, Burton wasn't going to be having it. So he left. And so did Michael Keaton. And he was offered about $15 million, it turns out, to reprise the role. But he said he read the script that they had for Batman Forever from Joel Schumacher. And he's like, no, the script sucks. I'm out.
Yes, it did. I still contend to this day that Batman Forever is the worst film out of the four. I know Batman and Robin is bad. I know that. But I think Batman Forever is worse. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. And if anybody wants to sit down with me and have a little fireside chat, I'm happy to do that. We can sit down and talk about this shit for hours because it is terrible. By the way, Pete says he thinks Mads Mikkelsen would make a great Mr. Freeze. And
yeah, I think he would.
I agree. Yeah, I think he would definitely shave his head to do it. So that would be amazing. Ray popped in, so thank you for joining us, Ray.
What's up, Ray? And one final point: Rene Russo was listed to play Dr. Chase Meridian before it went to Nicole Kidman, so that would have been interesting.
Kilmer, Pete says Kilmer was a better Batman Bruce Wayne than Clooney. I disagree, Pete. I think Kilmer was a better Batman, but I think Clooney was a better Bruce Wayne. I think Kilmer was too much of a stuffed shirt. He was too stiff as Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Where Clooney already had that playboy kind of attitude in general, so he just played himself, and it came off very well. So he was a perfect Bruce Wayne. Kilmer was a perfect Batman. He looked the most like Batman out of anybody. So I'll give you a 50% correct and then a 50% incorrect on that response, Pete. All right, so let's go ahead and, well, wait, we got one more comment from Derek Armijo. Thank you for joining us, Derek. Nice to pop in. Derek? I read Batman Triumphant back in the day. It was the worst of all.
Really?
Really?
Wow. That's disturbing.
Wow. Because the premise of that nightmare idea and stuff does sound great, but who would have been involved? Would it still have been Schumacher?
Yeah, Schumacher was going to do one final one, so maybe that's probably why.
Then Derek, I can see why that would be. Unfortunately, Schumacher's done some great stuff. Lost Boys, I just rewatched it back during the summer. Went to the drive-in. It's amazing. I hadn't seen it in so long. Fantastic film. What's that other one? Phone Booth was really good. Like Schumacher's done some really good stuff.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, personally, I prefer Flatliners and Falling Down. I think these are really underrated movies.
Darren, you're correct.
Also, the trouble with Matthew McConaughey escapes you right now. With Samuel Jackson with that famous line, "Yes, they deserve to die. I hope they burn in hell."
Yeah, Time to Kill.
Time to Kill. There we go.
Yeah.
Derek says Ratcatcher was in the beginning as well, which is interesting because I think Ratcatcher might be in the Suicide Squad film, if I'm correct. I could be incorrect. Derek, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that in the new one, the James Gunn one, we might be getting a little bit of Ratcatcher in that. Anyway, do you guys want to move on? Next film?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. Chris, Darren, either one of you want to take one?
Hey, Chris, why don't you do the Turtles?
Okay, sure. So, of course, we had, back in the 90s, we had 3 Turtles movies, 2 of them pretty awesome, and one of them enjoyable for the most part. And then there was a 4th one planned. It was called TMNT, The Next Mutation. There's not a ton of information based on the movies. Like, we don't know really who the villains were going to be, but there is some information, which I have.
The villains would be the production company that decided to move forward with it.
Well, they didn't decide, so were they the heroes?
Could be.
So the most basic premise that I could find is that the Turtles and Splinter would be undergoing secondary mutations as a result of the mutagen in their bodies continuing to change them. These secondary mutations would affect each turtle differently, granting them new powers and appearances that would come with their own unique sets of pros and cons. Thus, the next mutation. And the mutations were Donatello got telekinesis, but he went blind. Raphael turned into like a velociraptor, so it was like Raptor Raphael.
No.
Leonardo got metal skin.
Oh,
and
no.
Michelangelo became more street because he could make himself look like a human, and so he'd go up on the streets and interact with the humans.
That's terrible.
And Master Splinter was kind of like a werewolf almost, kind of. He would get like this weird muscular super rat mutant type of thing, like big legs. He looked a lot like, I looked at the artwork and he looked a lot like a werewolf. And then there was things involved like there was going to be a 5th turtle. It was the first time they had mentioned adding a 5th turtle to the team, as we know, there's been multiple 5th turtles now. And they were going to call him
Venus de Milo, I believe, was the first female turtle, and she came about during the television series that came and went very fast.
Same title.
Yeah, you're right. And also the second female Ninja Turtle is now Jenica.
Yes.
Spoilers. Who was a lady turtle, of course, and then like an actual lady, and then she got mutated into a turtle.
Mm.
I'm not sure if that happened with Venus de Milo. I don't remember how that worked with her.
Yeah, no idea. I never saw the show because it just looked like crap.
It did look really bad.
So they introduced the premise of a fifth turtle, and his name was Kirby, based on Jack Kirby.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and basically what it was going to be as far as we know, it was going to be a turtle from an alternate universe, an alternate dimension that comes in, and he was going to be. There's certain drawings of him looking like a cyborg a little bit, so he could have been kind of a cyborgy type turtle. There really is no way of knowing. We really don't have too much on him. But then they also have alternate dimension April and Casey Jones.
Yes.
And so I think a big part of the storyline was going to be all reality hopping, which happens in Turtles a lot. And so I think that's what they were going to introduce these mutations, and then they go into these either they go into these realities or the realities come to theirs or something like that. But that's about as much information as I was able to dig up. What I know that in what happened basically is they said Peter Laird directly said when he was introducing the movie that it was where is it? Hold on.
You're trying to.
It was going to have parallel dimensions and gothic proportions, and so that was the stuff that they were using to really push the movie forward. Yeah, but eventually everything got scrapped, and then a lot of these ideas that they had got pushed to other works. Like we said, the fifth turtle got pushed to Venus. The Ninja Turtles did get a new mutation in the cartoon, the 90s cartoon. They became like the Raptor Raph, pretty much all the Michelangelo got the shaft, and he got no other powers other than looking weird. Donatello did get a little bit of psychic thing, and he got his thing in his eye. Leo got harder skin and stuff. So they took some of these ideas and used it a little bit, but and then there was also an idea for one of the comic books at TMT Volume 4 when he decided to mutate Raph into a hideous monster, dubbed Gamer Raph after undergoing a bite by some vampires.
Right.
So
does that make sense?
So they took some of the ideas and put it into the other movies. And then basically what happened is the production company dropped it, then another production company tried to get it going, and there was an issue with the fact that the Hensons were no longer doing the animatronics, and so that caused an issue with some money, and so then the company who ended up making the TMNT animated film ended up winning the rights to make the next film, and so they scrapped everything that they had and made that film.
That film is good, but it's not what I wanted as a now more grown adult, having fallen in love with the rubber suit turtles. If they made another rubber suit kind of Turtles film, I'd watch the hell out of it, like in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. But I do have to ask to everybody, even the audience, but to the three of you as well. Did you enjoy Turtles 3, the movie, Turtles 3?
No.
Parts of it?
No.
Got
I prefer the first two.
I mean, it was clearly straight to video on so many levels at a time when straight to video was insulting. And I don't share Chris's affinity for the third film, and the fourth film, if we're dealing with parallel dimension turtles again, I'm just out. Like, I have no interest in any of that, and it's just, I don't know. But if they remade Turtles today, I think that, well, they did, and
right.
I wasn't even huge fan of it, but
it was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. They're gonna reboot it though. But here's the thing. There's a couple points I want to make. When they remade, like, did Turtles 3, the suits were different. They had a different company, like, working on the suits, so everything looked different. Hey, Evan, thanks for popping in, buddy. Nice to see you.
hey,
What's up, Evan?
So it looked odd. Like, they didn't look like the Turtles we were used to in 1 and 2. But what the third gave us, and something that I think a lot of you forget, is it re-gave us the gift of Casey Jones,
Yes.
of Elias Cotes, playing Casey Jones, who is an amazing character and should have definitely been in the second film, but unrighteously was not. It was a total bummer, dude. And it was really rad and dudical and totally tubular that they put him in the third one. So I was super happy about that. The other thing I want to bring up is what's happening right now happened in the 80s. We had, and I know a few of you also were bit by this, but we had come down with a severe case of turtle mania.
That's true.
And I could not get enough of these little green guys. Like, I collected every single figure. I saved every penny I had from washing dishes. My parents gave me $1 each time I washed the dishes. Sometimes I'd ask to try to wash them twice a day, and they wouldn't fall for it. And then they even paid me to feed my own dog, which was great. Like, I don't know who would do that, but they did. And I love that. And thank you guys. I love you for that, for just being nice and giving me money, even though I thought I was earning it, just feeding my own damn dog. But
the Nintendo game was a lot of fun, by the way.
Not the first one. The first one can suck my butt.
Well, no, I like both. The first one was just too difficult. That was the issue.
That's why it could suck my butt. Better. The second one was great.
Nice little challenge.
Second one was great.
Was fun.
That was the second one was the arcade game. Am I correct, or was that the one in Time?
I think it was the arcade game.
I think it was the arcade game, and then the third one was like the Turtles in Time one, which was really cool too. But
the second one is Turtles in Manhattan. Take Manhattan.
Is that it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that now we have another case of Turtle Mania. So what we're seeing is an unprecedented event. And our boy Dino, a.k.a. Tony, warned us about this. And he said 80s books are going to come around and they're going to hit big. And you better invest now.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that like a year ago. And I was like, he's right. I should probably. And I did to a point. You know, I bought a Transformers #1. And I bought a Ninja Turtles #2. That was affordable. But I didn't really go all the way. I didn't go, I need to get a first print of Ninja Turtles #1 or a second print of Ninja Turtles #1 or a third print of Ninja Turtles #1. And I'll tell you what, right now,
I did.
Those prices are through the roof. Through the roof. And Kevin, if you were any type of a humanitarian, you would sell that book and donate that money to starving children, Kevin. Starving children all over the world.
Donald, I'm disappointed by your reaction there. Kevin totally just flexed on you.
Oh.
He totally flexed on you.
How could you be disappointed by me telling him he should sell the book to donate to starving children all around the world? I mean, that's a really good response.
Yeah, that's the one that 99.5% of the comic community would not do.
Exactly, is what they would not do. But hey, there's other things I could flex on, and then he could flex back and forth. That's not what we're here for.
That's going to be next week's podcast.
That'll be
Kevin
flex off. My mom says I agreed. He loved his turtles, so she's proving the fact that I was in love with Ninja Turtles. Louis says that new TMNT Shredder's Revenge game looks cool. Louis, thanks for joining us, buddy. It's nice to see you on the podcast.
I got my link.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louis.
So let me post and highlight his. Okay, so I guess we've covered the turtles. Let's Darren, do you want to do one, or you want me to pop in?
Yeah.
What you got, Darren?
I'm not going to probably take as long, but I'm going to go with Iron Man.
All right.
Circa 1998. My little notes in the background here. All right, so the first time that there really, at least that we know of, that there was a mention of Iron Man being in a film, was going to be in the Death of the Incredible Hulk, which really, of course, never came to be. But, it did kind of put Iron Man on the radar because Iron Man, as I'm sure all of you know, would not be considered an A-grade Marvel character if you're just looking at the book run. So Universal actually, they owned the rights at that time to the Iron Man character. They were going to use Stuart Gordon to direct a low-budget feature. And Stuart Gordon, for those of you who don't know, had a big hand in the effects and producing on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So there definitely was interest there. But as we've said earlier in the podcast, a lot of what slowed Marvel down when it came to making films was their lack of belief in CGI technologies. And clearly you can't throw a low budget at this. You'd probably be laughed off the screen like Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, of course, would have been, roughly around that time too. 1996-97, let's jump to 20th Century Fox. They had owned the property for Iron Man, and they had approached a very young superstar at that time by the name of Nicolas Cage.
Wow. Okay.
Nicolas Cage was going to be offered the role of Tony Stark. Now, I don't know if they saw his work in Leaving Las Vegas, where he played a drunk or an alcoholic, and maybe they were going to go there. I don't know what the thought was on it. The folks in the chat, please feel free to jump in. But Nicolas Cage was seriously considered, and they were writing a project around him. So, jump to 1998. Tom Cruise had shown interest in producing and starring in an Iron Man film. And I don't know exactly where the order came, who started what started when, but Stan Lee actually jumped on board there, and he had a script ready to go for the Iron Man character. So the idea of Tom Cruise playing Iron Man was really interested to Stan Lee. And then MODOK, actually, of all people, was going to be the central villain of the character.
What's the abbreviation to MODOK?
God, I cannot remember right now. It's been a very long week at work.
Kevin, hit me.
It is the mental mobile mechanized organism designed only for killing.
Yeah, only for killing is what I always remember about that. It's the most ridiculous thing. And a little description of MODOK, by the way, for those that don't know. MODOK is a giant freaking head. Just a big fat head. Like the size of a big side of a cow's ass. Like a huge cow ass. That's the size of MODOK's head. And he has tiny little hands and tiny little feet. And he has a floating chair device that, like, not only does it comfort his buttocks, his head buttocks, but it comforts like the whole sides of his head and everything. It just goes completely around him. It's the most ridiculous character known to man, but very, very popular in the Marvel comic book fan community because it's so ridiculous and fun.
Yeah, it sounds quite a bit like Krang, actually. Of all people, this script even got in front of Quentin Tarantino to direct, which, I would have hated. But the thing is that one thing that always kind of appeared to me, and, obviously I'm a very large Iron Man fan. Personally, I always thought the perfect person to play Iron Man would have been a younger Tom Selleck, which clearly, he's in his 60s, if not 70s at this point. But I always liked the Iron Man that had the salt and pepper hair and was like, 6'3" to 6'5", very strong presence on screen. Personally, Robert Downey Jr. was not an exciting pick for me initially because for two reasons. One, I mean, he was basically, he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is great, but I mean, you're talking about a smaller indie film. I don't know if he could have carried this. And then you throw on top of that it's like he is 5'9" in his lifts. On top of the fact too that I don't know. I just didn't view him as that guy. And I had quite frankly got sick and tired of people saying, man, if Robert could only get his act together, because, he had some struggles in the past, but
right.
He could only get his act together. He's so incredibly talented. And actually sharing the screen with him, like I do right in the background here, watching him very carefully work, I had a very new appreciation for his talent, and I got to understand why people had so much faith in him over the years as an actor.
And he was a perfect guy for the job. Kind of what was going on in his real life.
What is that? That's
perfect.
a Darren mention. Darren, tell them why you're in the background of that screen.
Well, right in the background here, the thumb. There we go. Okay, gotcha. I am playing the bartender in the 2007 release Iron Man, movie that have had random members of my family actually stand up during the movie in the movie theater and say, "That's my cousin or my son or my brother."
You know, crazy. Darren, interestingly enough, I yelled, "That's my son." I was very confused at the time, but I was just extremely excited. So it happened. It is what it is.
That's my son. It sounds like the title of a CBS movie of the week.
By the way, Pete's made a couple comments. He said we might see Tom Cruise as Iron Man for the Multiverse of Madness. That's the Doctor Strange film that's coming. Pete, we talk a good bit about that in our most recent audio podcast that we just aired this past Friday with Sam Raimi. So if you haven't tuned into that, please find us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spreaker, and a whole host of others. So you can find us on there and listen to that podcast. It's also available on YouTube under the Rumblespoon Productions banner page as well. Pete also says, Google 90 Day Fiance Big Ed, and that's your MODOK. Pete, you are 100% correct. I looked it up. It's hilarious. The guy has no neck. It's just a straight fat head that leads right into a body that's even big. It's amazing. Like, he definitely should be MODOK. So you're right on. Let's see real quick. Sammy says, I'm still on my first whiskey, sir. How dare you? I knew it. I knew you were having whiskey, Sammy. Us whiskey drinkers can sense each other.
Whiskey Monday.
It's like a thing it's like a radio wave almost. It comes out of our brains and senses each other. I'm not rude. Pete says, I thought Oded Feher would have been a good Tony Stark.
I kind of like that, Pete. That's interesting you mentioned that. Oded Feher, for those who don't know, he basically plays the third lead or second lead, depending on how you look at it, in The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. He is one of the Magi. And, of course, for my personal taste, he plays the rich guy who hires Deuce Bigelow,
yes.
Bigelow to house it.
Yes, Darren, good mention, good mention.
So, yeah, actually, Pete, I never stopped to think about that. I think so, too. He has that regalness to him, and he's not a small guy. And look, there's no bigger Tom Cruise fan than me, probably, but Tom Cruise is, generously maybe 5'7", and I just don't think he's got that presence, So it would have taken a lot of getting used to view him as Tony Stark.
Darren, I think we would have gotten Top Gun Tony.
Yep.
Yeah, basically the sequel that we never got until we're getting it now. But, that might have been part of why he was interested, because he's like, oh, it's like Top Gun, but I'm by myself in a suit. So it's more about me.
Donald, you can be my wingman anytime.
Ah, Goose.
That was actually Iceman.
Oh, was it Iceman? Damn. Okay. I tried. It's been a while. And to be fair, you know what? I've never eaten at that barbecue place down in San Diego where they filmed a lot of that. Like the camaraderie scenes when they were in the bar and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right near the convention center, there's the place where they filmed it. Now, the original place burnt down, so they rebuilt it. So it's not quite the same. But, it'd still be kind of cool to go down there. And it's a barbecue place. I just never have gone.
Well, strangely enough, we did make a stop in Buena Park yesterday at Rock and Brews. If you ever want to just sit and have some barbecue and just listen to hard rock blasting in your ears, I definitely would recommend that one.
Little Greek says Billy Crudup as Iron Man would have been cool. I could deal with that. Again, I think Billy Crudup's a little short, but he's a phenomenal actor.
Billy Crudup he internalizes in a very interesting way as an actor, and he's super selective. As you remember, Billy Crudup was approached to be Peter Parker in Spider-Man before Tobey Maguire had gotten the role. So he turned down Spider-Man, so maybe he would have turned down Iron Man too, which would have drove his fans crazy.
I'm glad he turned down Spider-Man because Tobey Maguire. I thought he was a phenomenal Peter Parker / Spider-Man. I thought he did a really good job.
Yes.
I don't know that we could have asked for better at the time, to be honest. And that's kind of that was the backbone that everything was built on top of after that for Marvel films. And I don't want to say DC films because that's a whole different thing. Speaking of which, those that have seen the Snyder Cut, I've heard generally positive reviews. I've seen half of it. It's very good, guys. The half that I mean, I saw bits and pieces here and there, but it's very good, what I've seen. So, give it a shot. Darren, anything else on this Iron Man?
Nope, I got nothing more for you. It's interesting, though. Yeah, you mentioned the Snyder Cut. I have a feeling, not us, because we came in trepidatiously on it, but I have a feeling a lot of people are eating crow on the Snyder Cut right about now, which is kind of surprising.
They're actually, they just did a thing where they talked to I think the president of film or something at Warner Brothers and asked if they were indeed going to maybe possibly move forward with the Snyder Cut. Like as far as like the Snyder Universe then after that, and they said no, a resounding no. So apparently letting him redo this was kind of his like swan song and their apology to him. So they might be able to open channels and work together again in the future, but I don't think either one really has much desire to work with the other at this point. They just wanted to kind of
get this over and done with and part ways.
Yeah, get it over, part ways, but leave the door open a little bit and kind of an apology to him. And after seeing just even little bits of the Snyder Cut, I can't understand what Joss Whedon was doing. Like, he just ripped it apart. Like, it's a sprawling epic that should be watched in pieces, to be honest. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Chris Duquet just popped in. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining us. Chris says, the Snyder Cut was fucking awesome.
Wow, that's quite emphatic. That's quite emphatic.
Chris, I know you mentioned a whole bunch of stuff from a scene that happened, but I'm not going to mention that because that's a spoiler and a lot of people haven't seen it. So I'm not going to mention that, but I'm with you. I mean, it sounds amazing. So I guess I'll go. Is that all right, guys?
Yeah, it's your turn.
I want to talk about something. Okay, something that's a little bit off the beaten path, and I am super excited for this one, guys. Let me pull up the photo. I know I posted it earlier a little bit ago, but we're talking about Jack Black playing the Green Lantern.
Oh, yes. I think Bonnie would appreciate this one.
I can't be more excited about this. Bonnie, I hope you're listening or that you'll replay this and listen to it because I'll tell you what. It is something to behold. In 2004, guys, we had such amazing superhero films at the time. There was a lot of movement positively in production and cinematic value, special effects, and things like that allowed superhero films to really take flight. Such masterpieces as Blade Trinity was created, the Thomas Jane Punisher, and even Halle Berry's Catwoman was razzied off the screen and into our hearts. Now, I know, Pete, I know that you'll say, hey, Thomas Jane's Punisher was pretty good. Pete, you're right. I think there's a lot of savable, really good things. But I think his short that he did, which I think was Dirty Laundry, I believe was the name of it, was much better. Because he had complete control over it, and it was just him in a Punisher suit, basically. See, Pete, I knew you were going to say that. He says, hey, now, don't diss Thomas Jane. I'm not dissing Thomas Jane. I'm dissing the script itself and having John Travolta involved. Unfortunately, John Travolta, I think, was miscast. I think it was a bad choice. And thank you, Pete. It's Dirty Laundry, which was great. So if those of you that like the Punisher, you should seek out the short that's on YouTube called Dirty Laundry. Punisher Dirty Laundry. It's really, really good, guys. So we have these cinematic masterpieces, right? And then we have Warner Brothers looking, they're chomping at the bit. They're just wanting to do something to get out there and really make a name for their DC characters. So they think, well, who's really hot right now? Well, 2003 it just really ended. School of Rock was huge for Jack Black. He was a hot name, and they could possibly get him. So they said, you know what? Let's work on a script for Jack Black. Let's see what we could do. So they hired the most perfect person to write a script for an action-packed superhero film like Green Lantern. They hired the guy that created Triumph the Insult comic dog. They hired the guy that created the ambiguously gay duo. They hired Robert Smigel.
Oh,
yes.
God.
And he started to write the script for this. Now, once people heard that not so much that Robert Smigel was writing the script, but that Jack Black was involved. Robert Smigel said that originally when he was hired to write the script, Jack Black turned it down. He said that he was not wanting to do anything superhero related. And then Smigel wrote the script, gave the first draft to him. He was able to peruse it at his leisure while he was doing some Tenacious D band, totally kick-ass stuff. And he was like, you know what, this is actually pretty good. I think I'm interested now. And thus became the idea of Jack Black as the Green Lantern. Now, what most people don't know is that Jack Black wasn't going to play Hal Jordan. He wasn't going to play Kyle Rayner. He wasn't going to play Guy Gardner. He wasn't going to play Jon Stewart. He was going to play a completely different character created called Judd Plato.
Uh-huh.
And Judd Plato had something that nobody else had. He had zero talent. Which therein lies the comedy of it all, which is why Jack Black was considered for this script, because they wanted to cater it kind of to him a little bit. So they thought, well, Jack's funny. So Judd Plato is a guy that had tried out for reality television. He was a reality star, and he was a contestant on an extreme eating series called The Dare Diner. Now, he was first introduced to us viewers in the script while attempting to consume the head and carcass of a coyote. The entire head and carcass of a coyote. Why that makes sense? Well, it's 2004 if you think about it. Reality television is at its height. It's at its peak. People were losing their goddamn minds over Survivor and Amazing Race and all this stuff. MTV is hot with all their reality stuff. So they wanted to add that little kind of nibble in there for people that thought it might be funny. So, when Aben Sur, now those that don't know, Aben Sur was the original Green Lantern that fell to Earth, died, and bequeathed his ring to Hal Jordan and said, I'm dying, you are worthy of the ring. So, when Aben Sur died this time, he says, you know, I need to find somebody worthy, and the ring goes out. And while this guy's eating this coyote carcass, one of the presenters of the show says, this man is incredible. And the ring hears that and then flies to our boy, our friend, Judd Plato. And therefore bequeathing him with the power of the Green Lantern. Now, of course, like I said, he had zero talent. Completely ordinary dude. No physical skill. Nothing. So, again, that falls into the concept of the humor of it all. Maria says, when you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants in your room. It's for fun. Yeah, that came later. And Pete says, Tampa Bay, whose idea was that? Yeah, Pete. Nobody's that I know of. So originally the script was loosely based on the idea of the storyline Emerald Dawn, where Hal Jordan fought against a character called Legion. Now, they tweaked it a little bit, adding Sinestro, and then Judd was going to have to face Sinestro and Legion. So, it kind of made it a little bit different. Reynolds' version, because Ryan Reynolds did a version later, his version kind of teased the potential of Sinestro being a primary antagonist, a villain in the series. But in Jack Black's version, Judd fought against two characters, fought against Legion and fought against Sinestro. it was also going to be the first kind of a meta approach to superheroes. So essentially, he would almost like break the fourth wall in a way, because in the time of this universe when they were creating it, Jack Black's character, Judd, was aware of Green Lantern comic books and DC Comics and Marvel Comics. So when he got the ring, he was like, oh my god, I'm like the comic book character. So like essentially kind of broke the fourth wall a little bit. And then he would say like things like in Judd's, Judd would say things like in Robert Schmeigel's script, like, with great power comes great responsibility, or it's clobbering time. He would say the wrong quotes and things like that, so people thought that was hilarious. He would also manifest things oddly. Like, for example, when he was taking out the trash, like some of these bad guys, he would create a big dustpan and broom and just kind of sweep up the bad guys. You know, funny images that would appear. Britney Spears was alleged to appear as a cameo, so was Flavor Flav, because they were both popular around the time. So he would use the ring to create images of them to do certain tasks. So that was something that they were going to do. I mean, this is not a joke, guys. This stuff happened. At one point, though, the studio got so nervous after reading the first draft of the script that Warner Brothers said, hey, what if it wasn't Green Lantern, but just like some other generic superhero? So at that point, then, Robert Smigel was like, this is not going to work, guys. Like, this script's not going to work. Like, he knew in his heart of hearts that this wasn't going to see the light of day. But he did it. He changed the Green Lantern to another nameless superhero and kept writing the script. It gets weirder. And I know I'm taking a lot of time on this, but it is worth it, trust me. There is at a point where Judd is being trained by the Green Lantern Corps. The Green Lantern Corps is the whole group of superheroes. Oh, hey, Kevin, Christina Moreno says, hi, Kevin, I'm tuning in from Northridge.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Christina.
Thanks, Christina.
So at one point, the Green Lantern Corps is the whole, every planet gets a protector from the Green Lantern Corps, and they get a ring, and they're designed to help protect their planet. So Judd is designed to protect planet Earth. So he has to go to the Corps, which is Oa, the planet Oa, basically, to learn how to be a proper Green Lantern. And in doing so, the Green Lantern Corps has to train him, but they can't figure out how to get him to learn because he's not learning. So they end up using their rings to create a Muppets-style character explanation of who the Lanterns are and how they work. So we get basically the Muppets in this Green Lantern script, guys. There's a scene in there where there's a giant condom. Judd creates a giant condom to detain some criminals because he can't figure out how to do it anywhere else. There's a scene in there where he uses his ring to make his junk bigger while he's having coital affairs with another woman.
Wow.
Yes, this happens. There is a scene where he keeps dropping this guy from a high height, a window cleaner. So the lady that's like his love interest in this can see him heroically capture or like rescue him. And she does like coincidentally keeps missing seeing it, so he keeps dropping him over and over again. Just some really silly things. Jack Black, of course, in this would sing a Green Lantern song. He would try to create his own theme song like any other superhero because he is breaking that fourth wall. He's self-aware. He knows that comic books exist. He knows that comic book characters exist, so he's trying to do that. And what do comic book characters have? They have a theme song. They have music in the background. He also would wear a fanny pack because as a superhero, you often don't have anything but tights. So he wanted to carry his wallet, cell phone, some Pringles, anything like that he wanted in case he needed snacks, you know. That's another one. The biggest thing, I think, probably comes in the form of when an asteroid is headed towards Earth. And it's in the giant shape of Pikachu. And I'm not even joking, guys.
What?
It's in the giant shape of Pikachu. And they can't get people to take it seriously because all the children of US and Japan run out to greet with wild abandon this giant asteroid that's coming towards them because it's Pikachu, and Pikachu's their friend. And he's trying to figure out how to get these guys to stop trying, like, staying there and go seek shelter and get away. So, all in all, the Jack Black Pikachu, or you could call it that, the Jack Black Green Lantern is something that I think would have been amazing and awful all in the same breath. And I'm so sad it doesn't exist, but also kind of happy. But I'm still very sad it doesn't exist. I think if I had to choose between the Jack Black Green Lantern existing and the Ryan Reynolds, I would completely toss the Ryan Reynolds one and go with the Jack Black script. 100%.
Do you think it would have made significant money?
No.
Considering...
No. It would have been a bomb.
Donald, I think you're going too far.
Yeah?
The Ryan Reynolds version is probably due for a Snyder cut at this point. Because there were things there that I kind of liked.
Yeah.
I recognize the biggest problem I had with the movie is it was running out of money actively right in front of your very eyes.
Darren, it's funny you mention that because the Snyder Cut actually had written into it initially the idea of, in the trilogy of Justice League films that he was going to do, Ryan Reynolds was going to appear as Hal Jordan again.
See, and that would have worked out, but the other thing too that I think is interesting, if we would have gotten this monstrosity, we may not have gotten Jack Black in King Kong, which I would make the argument is some of his best work.
It was beauty that tamed the beast.
Yes, it's some of his best work, and that's obviously you would have had this movie that's completely forgettable. It's like, Seth Rogen's Green Hornet. Like, who in the world remembers Seth Rogen and the Green Hornet? It's one of those situations. And while all the stuff that you're talking about has the recipe for disaster, it is epic disaster.
Yeah.
It's epic disaster is extremely entertaining sometimes. But
very true.
I don't know. So that's where I'll disagree, because I would have preferred to have him in King Kong as opposed to whatever this was.
Well, Kevin, Darren, Chris, we're running a little short on time, so why don't we mention some that we had ideas upon discussing and just go over each of them, like, very briefly, like a minute each that we can explain.
Okay. I will do a combination of Spider-Man movies. So, for one thing, James Cameron was approached by Stan Lee and Chris Claremont back in 1990, first for an X-Men movie. But then what ended up happening was Stan Lee said something. This is what Chris Claremont said. Stan Lee said something to James Cameron. Hey, I hear you like Spider-Man. And all of a sudden, it just went into a Spider-Man conversation. Then the X-Men movie got scrapped. But the idea for the X-Men movie was going to be Bob Hoskins as Wolverine and Angela Bassett as Storm, for example.
Wow. Chris, you wanted to talk about Superman really quickly, briefly as well.
Yeah, probably one of the more famous of the superhero movies that wasn't Superman Lives, which was, of course, written by Kevin Smith. Involved a giant spider at the end that was being controlled by Brainiac, which was planned on being played by Christopher Walken. Superman, of course, was planned on being Nick Cage. Yeah, and it was, of course, supposed to be directed by Tim Burton. But then lots of things happened. One of the producers, John Peters, didn't want Superman to fly or wear his red and blue costume. Actually wanted him to play that spider. Tim Burton eventually dropped out, and then new people were coming in. They wanted Courtney Cox or Sandra Bullock to play Lois Lane. Lots of things bad changes were happening, so people were dropping out. And then next thing you know, movie just got scrapped.
Who was this script originally written by? Was it Kevin Smith or no?
Kevin Smith. Yes, it was Kevin Smith.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting choice.
You have to watch.
That's a very interesting choice because Kevin Smith, I think he's gotten lucky a lot in his career, and I don't know that Kevin Smith the writer is still there. I want him to be, but I don't know if he is. You know what I mean? Like, so it would have been very interesting to see his rendition of this story.
Well, I read the script. It was, it was in 1996, so it was prime Kevin Smith. But I read the script, and it's not bad. It's not a bad script. I mean, considering all the stuff, all the conditions they made him put into the film. But it's also not a Kevin Smith film. You don't have Superman talking for 12 pages, is having discussions and stuff.
Right.
But he kind of really narrows the dialogue down, which is really interesting, and you really is like you reading it, you wouldn't think, oh, this is a Kevin Smith movie. So that was what was kind of interesting, and he knows comic books, so there's that. But yeah, you would never think that. Oh, if you didn't say written by Kevin Smith,
he did write a very good. I think it was called Quiver, a very good Green Arrow storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Kevin's 1 through 10, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. He did an extremely good job. Sean's joined us, everybody. Sean Leonard. So thanks for joining us, Sean.
Hey. What's up, Sean?
Sean says, I thought Red State was great, very well written. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, Sean, for sure. Definitely. Not 100% my cup of tea, but I was glad to see Ralph Garman get some work. Love Ralph. Can't go wrong with Ralph. Any others that you guys want to mention, Kevin?
Yeah, I was saying before, the two other Spider-Man movies we didn't get to see, one was James Cameron's Spider-Man, and one they had listed was Leonardo DiCaprio as playing Spider-Man. Maggie Smith playing May Parker, Robin Lively playing Mary Jane Watson, the late great R. Lee Ermey playing J. Jonah Jameson, Michael Biehn as Sandman, Lance Hendrickson as Electro, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as possibly Dr. Octopus.
Darren, let me ask you something. Do you remember that series? It was on Chris. You might know too. It was on the WB network before it changed to the CW, and it had a Bobcat Goldthwait played a bunny puppet.
Yeah, it's called Happily Ever After.
Thank you. I think it was Unhappily Ever After. Yes. And you remember what was her name? Was the redhead that was in there, played his daughter. Nikki Cox, thank you.
Yeah.
At one point, they were really hard pushing her to play Mary Jane. I remember that. Very hard. Like, she was in all the fan, edited photos and stuff as Mary Jane, and I was even behind it. I was like, yeah, she's really good. Like, she's cool. Like, she'd play great, Mary Jane, blah, blah, blah. But nothing ever happened.
I would say there was rock hard enthusiasm.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, if I could jump in here, we had Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1998-99 to potentially play Doc Savage.
Ooh.
Kind of a pulpy character from the 1930s. Now, the project was going to be put together by Chuck Russell, who directed Eraser, which I like Eraser a lot. It's sadly a little dated at this point, but Eraser is probably one of Arnold's more underrated films. And Frank Darabont was going to jump in and do this kind of 1930s, piece about this pulpy, character from then. I don't want to go on a huge rant here because I don't dislike him. I just find Frank Darabont is rather overrated in many ways. He really hasn't directed that many movies. Of course, he's, the producer of The Walking Dead, and that's kind of his thing now. But if you take Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile away from him, he doesn't really have much to stand on. I mean, The Majestic with Jim Carrey, The Mist, with Thomas Jane, Pete's guy. I don't know. The Schwarzenegger guy, I don't think this would have been any good. It's just my opinion. We'll never know. But, I mean, yeah, this was weird to, when I started researching into this, I'm like, what were they thinking? And at the time, Arnold was doing End of Days, which I like, but I'm an Arnold fan, so I'll like End of Days. I know it's not a huge hit movie by any stretch, but, man, what a weird choice this was.
It sounds great to me. I mean, everything about it sounds amazing. I would have loved to have seen Doc Savage on the screen. I love these pulpy characters. The fact that we got a Shadow movie with Alec Baldwin, that blows my freaking mind. And I think that's the closest that Alec Baldwin ever got to Batman, besides that one episode on 30 Rock, where they very much alluded to him being Batman throughout the whole episode, and it was great. Loved it.
Pulpy characters. Come on, Donald. Those are so early 90s.
Yeah, I got the Phantom, buddy. That was 96? Yeah.
And, of course, you got Dick Tracy, which, by the way, not to gloat or anything, I got all 130 episodes on DVD last weekend up here in Tarzana.
All 130?
Yeah.
130 episodes are done!
Yeah, then 1961 classic.
Wow. That's crazy. That's an investment in time, buddy. You better get started.
Yeah, that's right. All
Yeah.
those 22-minute episodes.
Chris, did you have another one you wanted to briefly mention?
Not really.
No? Kevin.
Add two more.
I know Kevin always has some.
Yeah, Spider-Man 4, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning, it would have had John Malkovich as the Vulture. Dylan Baker, who was already Doc Connors in the previous movies, he would have finally transformed into the Lizard.
Yeah, well, that poor son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, he put so much time into that character, and then they just let's recast.
And of course, Anne Hathaway was going to play another cat before she played a certain cat in DC. She was going to be Black Cat.
Which
then,
also, by the way, there is currently another rumor that Black Cat is possibly still going to get a film. Like her own part of... Sony keeps throwing out ideas and people keep going... Like, they keep trying to just grab and cling on to them. And one of them was the Black Cat film, and another one is a Kraven the Hunter film. We finally got what's coming out this year, maybe, the Morbius film, with Jared Leto playing the living vampire. That's going to be fascinating. We got Venom 2 coming out, which is going to be fascinating as well. It's got Carnage in it, so we'll see what happens with that. So they're slowly building outside of the Marvel universe to build their Sony universe, which is smart. They're taking their time.
And then, of course, Justice League Mortal, which was supposed to be directed by George Miller. I think we might have missed a treat there over 10 years ago. And that would have had Armie Hammer as Batman, Bruce Wayne, DJ Cotrona as Superman, Megan Gale as Wonder Woman, Adam Brody as the Flash Barry Allen, Hugh Keys-Byrne as Martian Manhunter, Teresa Palmer as Talia al Ghul, Zoe Kazan as Iris Allen, Santiago Cabrera as Aquaman, Jay Baruchel as Maxwell Lord, instead of, unfortunately, Darren Munell, who would have been better, Common as John Stewart, Green Lantern, and the late Anton Yelchin as the Flash, Wally West.
Which would have been amazing. I so want to see Wally West. The Flash that we got in Zack Snyder's Justice League is not Barry Allen, by the way. He has the name Barry Allen, but you have to think of him as Wally West or
he has the soul
or
of
Bart
Wally West.
Allen. It's either Wally West or Bart Allen. It's not Barry Allen. I can 100% guarantee you. That character,
that's his personality.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make
personality.
sense. No.
Did you say Jay Baruchel as Maxwell Lord? That would have been awful.
Yeah, you're right.
That's why you would have been better. That's what I'm saying. You, Darren, would have been better.
Kevin, a houseplant would have been better. All right. I mean, yeah, and this is the comedic relief pothead guy in Knocked Up. Come on now.
Okay, so real quick, we've got some others. I'm just going to post them up on the screen, and Kevin, you can make a comment if you want.
All right, let me check them out.
We've got a Wachowski Plastic Man.
Oof. I don't know what to make of that one. I don't know how that would have worked. And because, they have a way of operating, and it probably would have not been the Plastic Man that we know.
No, and it wouldn't have worked with Keanu as the lead, because they
no, not at all.
They love Keanu, so that would not have worked. Not a favorite choice for everybody here at the Real Short Box, but we do also have. We talked about the Magneto ones. Did we talk about X-Men: Fear of the Beast?
No, there's not much information on it. It just basically would have been a spin-off of like X-Men First Class, Days Future Past. The actor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, who played Beast, he was pretty good. I actually liked him. He's pretty good.
I believe he was the lead, one of the leads in the series Skins on the BBC, if I'm correct. Am I correct, Chris?
Yes, that is very correct. Well, yeah, first 2 seasons.
First 2 seasons, yeah. He was like the main guy on that. And then he left, and it kind of went whatever.
And he's also in that Warm Bodies.
Oh, is he?
Warm Bodies.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, I haven't heard of that in a long time.
Uh-oh. Kevin, Wesley Snipes, Black Panther.
That would have been interesting. And Wesley talked about that. The problem is 2 things. One, they got confused, the studios, about they're thinking of the Black Panther organization from the 1960s, and they were freaking out about that. It's like, no, not those guys.
Wow.
So he had to explain that. And then another problem was the effects at the time, the early 90s, wouldn't be up to par. And also he wanted to bring, an Afrocentric element to it. So I think that also may have not have gone over as well as you would have liked, back during that time period. But it ended up helping him get Blade going a few years later, 5 years later.
Yeah.
So
it ended up being a smart move.
Mm-hmm.
Overall.
Yeah, you have to remember, when Blade happened, like, Wesley Snipes' career was not on the up and up. I mean, he was getting theatrical release movies, but they were not highly successful.
How about Doctor Strange, Kevin?
I'm trying to remember which version of this. This was
Wes Craven, I think?
Oh, yeah. Wes Craven apparently was going to do a Doctor Strange movie. Not much information on that, but, it would have been kind of interesting because, it's a horror movie director, and you're kind of going in that realm of the dark mystic arts.
It's funny to me, like Blue Moon owned the rights to, or Full Moon Productions owned the rights to Doctor Strange for a while. And they had actually written a script, and what's his name? Bland. We'll just call him Mr. Band. Mr. Band, who has done a ton of Full Moon production films, decided to go ahead with the story anyway and just call it Dr. Mordred in the Master of Mystical Arts or something like that.
That's right.
And it had the guy, and I can never remember his name, and I always feel so bad that I can't, that was in The Frighteners. He played the FBI agent, the really weird one, like 14-6 something, that guy. And he was fantastic in the role, in The Frighteners. If you haven't seen The Frighteners, by the way, 100% watch it.
Underrated movie.
Peter Jackson's best work, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, underrated movie.
Very underrated. And this is a great film. It's not amazing level, Marvel movie or whatever. For a B film, Charles Band, I believe, is the guy. His direction, he's always puts in a solid effort. He doesn't phone it in, and the story's pretty decent. So I recommend if you get a chance to check it out. It has been created. It's on Full Moon Productions. They do have a streaming site, too, if you guys are interested. It is available.
Batman Year One, that's another one I forgot to mention.
Louis says, Toby Hooper's Spider-Man, the origin story of Spider-Man where the character turns to a horrifying man-spider rather than a superhero. Imagine
that's
80s
right.
practical effects like The Thing would have been cool, Louis. And Sean agrees that would have been interesting. I'm sure you all talked about Hellboy 3 and Wright's Ant-Man already. Sean, we have not. We're getting there. We actually took a lot of time on some of these, so we're just kind of glazing over some of these really quickly to get through our list.
Yeah, Batman Year One would have been kind of cool from Darren Aronofsky. It was going to be R-rated.
Superman 5.
Oh, yeah, Superman 5. That was going to have Brainiac in it.
Again,
And there were
a great villain. And should have been used way sooner. Stop using... Okay, I'm going to... Here's an announcement. Stop using Lex Luthor. Stop it. He doesn't need to be the villain in every Superman film, guys. Stop using General Zod. Stop. Those two characters are done. Overused. Knock it the freak off.
They shouldn't be used again until the 22nd century, until we're all dead and gone.
Gone. I don't want to see
I
him.
don't know, man. I think Jesse Eisenberg, is exactly what we were looking for in Luthor,
Oh, you don't say.
Wait a minute. Darren's drunk. Darren has reached peak drunkenness.
Hey, Donald, you would have taken Bizarro at this point, right?
Yes, absolutely. That would have been perfect. but didn't happen.
You take Mr. What's his name? Miss Plictic at this point.
Yeah. Kevin, She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
That was Cohen? Larry Cohen?
Yeah, I think that was Larry Cohen. What did I have on She-Hulk? Yeah, that was something also from the 1980s. Didn't really get too far in development.
Nope, but you know what? We're getting a series on Disney Plus, and that's all we need to know.
That's all we need to know.
By the way, any prospectors out there listening to our podcast, always get ahead of the curve. Loki's coming up. Think about what could possibly be in a Loki series. She-Hulk's coming up. Moon Knight's coming up. Who's the main villains? Who's the main heroes? Who's the sidekick characters? When are their first appearances? Look into it. Do your investment now. Don't wait until the film or the series hits and then go, oh, I want to look it up and buy it. You're not going to be able to afford it, and if you are, you suck, because I can't.
Right, and I have to rub it in a little bit to our co-host, who's not currently on the podcast at the moment, who said in a group text that between the Snyder Cut and Falcon and Winter Soldier, guess which one I'll be watching this weekend. And as we've heard the rave reviews about the Snyder Cut, I have heard the Falcon and the Winter Soldier's first episode is the equivalent of the WandaVision first episode. So I'm just saying, buddy.
Oh, that's not good. You know, Sean, Mr. Mitplex or whatever the hell his name is, Mitplexik or whatever you want to call him. I love the idea, but he's too zany. I don't think it would work very well. It works great in the animated Superman series, but in a movie, I don't see it.
I think you could change the character a little bit. In other words, make him a little more of a dark, twisted, like kind of like the Leprechaun is in those first couple Leprechaun movies.
Yeah.
Make him like a dark, just, twisted character like that.
Kevin, your image of the Joe Carnahan Daredevil was very blurry, but we're going to go with it. Fox at the time still had the rights for Daredevil, and Joe Carnahan wanted to make his pitch to do a 70s version of Daredevil, kind of being like a la Starsky and Hutch kind of a thing, very gritty and, like
Hard R.
Got my car and riding around and stuff, But the only problem with that is that Fox let the rights lapse, and Disney, Marvel, got them back very quickly, and thus ended Carnahan's idea for Daredevil. So that's a quick one. Next one, I'm going to pull another image up here. Kevin, James Franco, Multiple Man. I don't know why this was even a thing.
You know what? I just found that just by chance. For some reason, when he was kind of at his peak, and his zany his personality, it was something they wanted to, give to him. Have multiple James Francos on the screen at the same time.
Didn't we already see that with Multiplicity and Michael Keaton?
Yeah. We did.
And we saw how much money that made, $10. I paid $10 to see it, so I'm pretty sure I'm the one that gave them that money.
Only person who saw it.
You're welcome.
I'm sure Michael Keaton turned down $15 million for Batman 3 to do Multiplicity.
You know how many
extreme measures? So good job, Mike.
You know how many slices of pizza I put in my wallet after that film? Derek Armijo, I know you know what I'm talking about. I know you know. So we're gonna move on from that one. Next one. Here we go. This is a big one, guys. Oh my God. This is huge. Justice League Dark.
That's the one, if I recall, that was supposed to have been Guillermo del Toro, right?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro was going to do Justice League Dark. We would have gotten John Constantine. We would have gotten Zatanna. We would have gotten Swamp Thing. We would have gotten Deadman. We would have gotten a host of other DC B-level heroes that are freaking amazing and very niche, very different in their power sets and what they can do, which is what DC thrives in with their B-level heroes.
Deadman, Swamp Thing. I mean, you would see all these great, like you said, Zatanna, all these great characters that have really cool powers, but just within that dark, mystical realm.
Now, rumor has it that we are going to be seeing a Zatanna film at some point. They have commissioned a writer to write a new Zatanna film that's going to happen. Now, it was supposedly, from what I heard in rumors, it was going to be a series, but now I'm hearing it's a film. So we'll see what happens. Those that do not have Hawkman number 4, good luck getting it now.
That's right.
Hawkman 4 is the first Zatanna, those that do not know. Okay, next one. Chris, you're going to be excited about this one. You ready? Josh Whedon's Wonder Woman. Right? That almost happened, buddy. That was close.
Oh, well, it couldn't be really worse than '84.
It was right before just the Avengers, I believe, with Joss Whedon writing. He was going to do a Wonder Woman series or a film, and it came very close. And then they just didn't seem to have the faith that they should have in Whedon. And Joss said, you know what, I'm done, Warner Brothers. I'm going to go over here to Disney and do this little film called The Avengers or something and finish that. And he did amazingly good job, and Warner Brothers immediately went, oh shit.
I don't know, I feel like it kind of would have been just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Do you think that they would have hired the lady that played Zoe from Firefly? Because that's who I wanted to play it.
Probably.
Anyway.
Next choice. Moving on. Here we go. Couple more, and then we'll be done for the night, guys. Let me see if I can pick a good one.
Batman Year One in there?
We've got a Gambit with Channing Tatum.
Oh, yeah. Good old Channing Tatum.
Yeah, Gambit, was supposed to be played by Channing Tatum. The director slated was Gore Verbinski.
Interesting.
From films like The Ring and The Pirates of the Caribbean. They said the biggest obstacle to all of this is that when they approached everybody to shoot the film, they said, hey, the good news about this film, it's ready to shoot right now. So nobody really had any time to look into it. There was nothing that could have been developed. It was like shoot, shoot, and shoot. And as those of you who know, one of these days maybe I'll do like a series for those of people. We could do an episode of those people who don't understand maybe the process of how a film gets made. It's very slow for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's to avoid things like this. Just throwing something at someone and say, go shoot it, would have been a disaster. I'm kind of glad it never got made.
Right. Louis says Green Arrow escaped from Supermax. Louis, is that a film?
Yeah, that was something that was supposed to have been made.
Was it? Probably the, what's his name? Stephen Amell ruined that because of his acting.
Ooh, harsh.
Yeah.
It was written by the Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li writer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
We got a Doom Patrol here, Kevin. What's this about?
Oh, I did? Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I believe that was a movie they had developed coming back in the late 80s or early 90s.
For those
didn't get anywhere.
For those that don't know, HBO Max has Doom Patrol on there. They have the first 2 seasons, and they're working on a third, and it is fantastic. It is. Chris, you agree? Thank you.
I do.
So I should
really good.
Watch it.
Brendan Fraser, Kevin, you're gonna watch it, and then you're gonna be like texting me or every so often as you watch it, because I did the same thing with Jarrett. I was like, Jarrett, oh my God, this scene, you gotta watch this. You gotta watch. I was trying to talk him into watching it because I didn't know anybody else that was at the time, and I was like, if there's somebody that would watch it, it'd be Jarrett. But Chris, I didn't even know.
And Brendan Fraser's in it, right?
Yeah, he plays Robot Man.
Oh, and he's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. It's just a fantastic series. We got a James Bond in there playing the lead guy.
Oh, is that Timothy Dalton, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. But
what's his name as the villain is amazing.
Alan Tudyk?
Yeah, Alan Tudyk is great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And by the way, he's in a new comic book series on Sci-Fi called Resident Alien. And if you haven't seen that, you are doing yourself a disservice. Cannot recommend Resident Alien enough. It is probably the best series on television right now, guys.
And it's the pilot was the highest rated sci-fi TV show ever.
That's great to hear, because I really wanted it to succeed and I wasn't sure how it was doing. I also recommend Snowpiercer, the TV series, for those that have not seen it. It's really good.
It's phenomenal.
I'm very surprised. Sean says, I still have yet to check Doom Patrol out. Everyone I know says it is great. Have you all seen the Swamp Thing show? Sean, I've seen the first 6 or 7 episodes of it, and I must say it's very good. Very good. It wasn't made for the CW. They aired it on there, but it wasn't made for there. It originally aired on the DC streaming network, and it was extremely well done. Unfortunately, they cut the amount of episodes that they were supposed to put out.
That's sad.
Yep. Even my mom loves Resident Alien, guys. It's great. You got to watch it. My dad likes it too. Come on now. You have to see it. But with that, I think we're going to call it for the evening, guys.
Great.
Thank you for all tuning in and listening to us here at The Real Short Box. We very much appreciate it. For those that do not know, we do this live podcast every week. We do it on the Rumble Spoon Productions page on YouTube. You can find us there. We do it live, usually from 7:30 p.m. Pacific time to 9 p.m. Pacific time, where you sometimes run a little late like we did tonight because we're excited about the topic and we like to talk. We do have our audio podcast. What are those available on, gentlemen?
Let's see. Spotify. I believe we're on SoundCloud. TuneIn. Spreaker. I'm not saying it right. What's the one that's Apple? Was it Apple Store? No,
Apple Podcasts, yeah, basically.
Apple Podcasts, thank you.
Of course, Blueberry.
Yes, right, Blueberry.
And iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio, there we go. And as Donald always says, if there's some spot that you can't find us, let us know. We'll make sure that we're on there.
Yeah. Good night, Sammy. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad. Good night, Enrique. Good night, Sean. Good night, Pete, if you're still listening. Good night, Evan. Everybody else that's on here, Louie, I don't know, Maria, anybody that's still listening, good night. Thank you for being a part of our presentation tonight, our live podcast. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support.
And if we don't see you out and about anytime soon, perhaps, maybe, just maybe,
we'll see you at the sweet, precious, effervescent, humble, and, of course, most valuable comic book shop.
Good night, everybody. Take care. Good seeing you. We're going to leave you on a video.